Hello again, everyone, and welcome to The Crusher. I'm your host, Josh Brewster, with my lovely and talented co-host, Susan Olson. Susan, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. As you can tell by the hat, I'm in alien mode because I did see the new movie last night.
Very good. Give me the quick review. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down?
I think that for most people's intents and purposes, they will like it.
Okay.
It's entertaining. As an alien purist, one who worships the xenomorph, I found it disappointing.
So thumbs down.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thumbs down on the new Alien movie.
But good acting, especially from David Johnson, who plays Andy. He's lovely.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, listen, speaking of lovely, yesterday, RFK Jr. made a speech and he endorsed Trump. And this is a stunning moment. And here's what I want to say. We have a headline, RFK Jr. exits race, endorses Trump. Between exits race and endorses Trump, there's a speech he made that stunned me. It absolutely stunned me because we have talked often about the Democratic Party has left town. JFK Democrats are right-wing kooks now. And we're going to talk about RFK's speech yesterday because I found it absolutely amazing that a Kennedy would tackle the Democratic Party the way he did. Give me your general thoughts, then we'll dig into it.
Well, I've been hoping for this. I've really, really been hoping for this. I loved hearing that Bobby was running. I had disliked him for years because he called Geert Wilders an Islamophobe. And to me, anybody that even uses the term Islamophobe is kind of stupid. But anyway, when he came out about the vaccines and the mandates and about vaccines in general, and I saw how the left started calling him an anti-vax kook, which is so unfair, and it's the same kind of lies that they've been doing on Trump, and the media is just, they're liars. Anyway, when he decided to run, it's like, God dang it, he would be my candidate. I would be voting for Bobby just because, and you got to get past the voice, which I have. He speaks about the actual issues and he has actual plans. Gee, what a unique thing.
Yep.
But I just don't think that he's quite ready for the position. I think that there is a strength to Trump that we need because it isn't just about getting this country back on track. It is about putting out the fire. It's not rebuilding yet. We are on fire. When they talk about moving forward, we're going towards a cliff. And what I don't think Bobby knows, or even Trump knows, maybe they do, this is intentional.
Yeah.
We are supposed to implode.
Yeah.
And you look around, this is happening to all of Western civilization.
Yeah, yes, it is.
This is the destruction of the West, and it's the destruction of freedom.
Yep.
So to me, I just want the big guy who can actually stop the freight train. And that's Trump.
Well,
but I love Bobby.
Let's go through some of the things he said. I mean, he started off, I attended my first Democratic convention at the age of 6 in 1960. Back then, this is such a beautiful start. Back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights, stood against authoritarianism, against censorship, against colonialism, imperialism, and unjust wars. We were the party of labor, of the working class. The Democrats were the party of government transparency and champion of the environment. Our party was a bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy. I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money. Boom!
I love it. I love it. It's like I've been trying to tell people. The Democrat Party is the dog that got rabies. It's not on your side anymore. It's going to kill your family. You got to put it down.
Yeah, no, take as Kevin O'Leary, who's been very vocal, by the way, as Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank has said, take it out in the back and shoot it.
Oh,
Take it out. That's how he says on Shark Tank, and he didn't say that about the Democrats, but he says that.
oh, okay.
But he said, but they could. All right. Anyway, he talks about 100,000 volunteers.
All the hoops that every time he jumped through a hoop that the Democrats gave him, they raised it.
Yeah,
and they gave him another hurdle.
He says at the voting booth, he said 100,000 volunteers he had. At the voting booth, the DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state. It deployed DNC-aligned judges. This is where it gets good. It had deployed DNC-aligned judges, basically against me and other candidates, to get them off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail.
Yeah. And I get people all the time going, and you'd vote for a felon? I'm like, if you aren't terrified about what happened to Trump and the lawfare and the twisting of our judicial system, then you aren't paying any attention at all.
Listen, if look at Natan Sharansky, who was thrown in a Soviet gulag because he had the balls to want to emigrate to Israel back in the 70s when they were taking their Jews and throwing them in the gulag. Now he's convicted of something. The hell do I care? It's a kangaroo court in the Soviet system. You've got the Soviet. We have a Soviet system now. They take this stupid accounting thing that was a misdemeanor. They find some circuitous way to blow it up into a felony. Now he's guilty of 34 felonies. You tried him in New York City. The place voted like 89% against Trump. What do you not get, folks? Do you not get this?
Well, and the judge should be disbarred. I'm sorry. You don't tell a jury, you don't have to agree what the crime is because he never named the crime. It's a misdemeanor unless it was to cover up another crime, and that other crime was never named.
Oh, and they're going, Susan, they know no boundaries. September 18th, they will sentence Trump. They will do anything. Oh, especially now that Kennedy's encouraging the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% of people in this country who voters wanted to vote for him. He's telling them to vote for Trump. You damn right they're going to sentence Trump to jail. Trump will probably.
They're preparing Epstein's cell.
Trump will. Yeah, really. Trump will probably win on appeal. That's a long, drawn out process, but they want to continue to point to him as a convicted felon. All right, here we go. He talks about Harris and the Democrats. The Democrats, installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and father both relished debate. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days. This is profoundly undemocratic. And here we go. Another nuke coming. Watch your back. The DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based on nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons and a highly produced Chicago circus.
I love you, Bobby. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you. So eloquent. I wish Trump could talk like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wish you could be that succinct and articulate.
Yes.
But he's going to bring him on. Now, I think he should be the Attorney General. If you want to drain the swamp, make Robert Kennedy Jr. the Attorney General. Now,
that is the best.
Now we're going to get into these public health issues that he's very big on. So we'll get to that in a minute. But he goes on here, Susan. He says in Chicago, The string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Who needs policy when you have Trump to hate? And he says in contrast at the Republican convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days. So yeah, who needs policy when you have Trump to hate?
Yeah, and like I understand people saying, well, it's unfair to blame Harris for the condition that the country is in because the vice president doesn't have that much power.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
That's kind of true, but
Susan.
not in this situation. She's been there. If she could do this on her first day, why isn't she doing it today?
Susan, I've said before, I'll say again and again and again, you can call her the czar. You can call her whatever the hell you want to call her. She was the vice president of the administration that blew the border open. I don't care whether she visits the border. You talk about it's intentional. What does she have to visit the border for? She knows what she's doing. She knows what Biden is doing.
Absolutely, and all the laws we've ever needed are on the books.
She's talked at length about how much she loves sanctuary cities. And she wants to decriminalize it.
She may not, because I don't think she's a very bright person. I really don't. But she may not really be aware of how destructive this is. But, most puppets aren't. But she knows that she knows she's going to keep those borders open. And she's going to keep doing all the things that are destroying us.
And it is. And you talk about the cliff. I think we're already over the cliff, and I think that Trump and Vance and hopefully RFK works for him. I think they're all just fingers in the dam. But that's another show.
Well, yeah.
But we have to do something. We have to do something.
Well, until the rest of our population wakes up, and I understand you've got your jobs, you got this, you got that. You don't have a whole lot of time, so you turn on the TV and you listen to what the mainstream media is telling you, and you sit there like a dashboard ornament going, No, you have to put more into it. You have to do your research.
Talks about how they selected Harris. How did they do this? How did they choose a candidate that's never done an interview? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters. What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. Here it comes. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies. When a U.S. president colludes or outright coerces media companies to censor political speech, it is an attack on our most sacred right.
And he goes further to say that it wasn't misinformation that they were censoring. They were censoring truth.
Yes. Let's get to that. By the way, he points out that DNC and its mainstream media networks maintained a near perfect embargo on interviews with me during his 10-month presidential campaign. It's the transcript's a little goofy because I don't think they edited it. Anyway, he says in 1992, Ross Perot gave, by the way, who was in the debate, if you remember, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, watch, he doesn't mention Fox here. ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined to give only 2 live interviews with me.
Yeah.
And then they ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often.
Well, they couldn't really. Fox couldn't do it either. Fox told RFK that because they had such heavy big pharma sponsorship, they couldn't let him talk too much.
This is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Okay. Just 30. Okay, here we go. This week, I'm going to read a little bit here. This week, federal judge Terry Doty upheld my injunction against Biden, calling the White House's censorship project the most egregious violation of the First Amendment in the history of the United States. Of America's previous 155-page decision, blah, blah, blah. Hold on. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, swearing to uphold the Constitution, President Biden and his White House opened up a portal and then invited the CIA, the FBI, the CISS, he says, which Kennedy says is a censorship agency. It's the center of the censorship industrial complex. The DHS, the IRS, and other agencies to censor me and other political dissidents on social media. Even today, users who try to post my campaign videos to Facebook or YouTube get messages that this content violates community standards.
Yeah. Matt Taibbi.
Michael Schellenberger, Miranda
Yes.
Devine. It stuns me, Susan, when you stop and think about 51 former and current and former intelligence agents, one of whom is Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State, sit down and write a letter, and they sign a letter, which they know is a lie, saying that the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation and it's a product of Vladimir Putin. And they sign this. I remember when CNN would have exposed this. I remember when 60 Minutes would have shoved that letter right back down their throats. But now they're like,
they wouldn't have dared to do anything so egregious.
But Susan,
we're all journalists. We don't have.
But if they did, Susan, 60 Minutes would have jammed it right down their throats.
Yeah. But see, 60 Minutes started playing their game quite a long time ago.
Oh my God!
And I wrote a stern letter to them, and this was back when Arizona was getting all kinds of garbage for wanting people to show papers, show identification if they get pulled over. And 60 Minutes lied and said they've now made it legal for a person to be pulled over simply because they look like they might be an illegal alien. That was a complete and total lie.
And they keep running with it. Also interesting, there was, I don't know who did this. It was brilliant though. Someone brought a Venezuelan, an illegal from Venezuela to the Democratic convention and said, "Hi, we're coming in." And they were like, "This man doesn't have identification." It's like, well, we don't need identification to vote. Why would he need identification to come into the convention? And there's these walls.
Well, and they also said he didn't need ID to enter the country, but he does to enter the convention.
And there's walls. Walls don't work except when they're putting walls around the Democratic convention, right? They don't work, right? Or if you need to keep the neighbor's poodle out of your yard, then they work. But if you need to keep, 10 million illegals out of your country, they don't work. Okay, anyway, he says the media justifies their censorship on the grounds of combating misinformation. But governments and oppressors don't censor lies. They don't fear lies. They fear the truth. And that's what they censor.
Yep. You got that exactly right.
It's an Orwellian term. Misinformation and disinformation. This is an Orwellian term,
Yes, it is. It's the magistrate of truth or something. And people, again, I'll say, take a good look at England. They're ahead of us in this. There are people going to jail. They're letting hardened criminals out of jail in England so they can make room for people that repost things on Facebook.
Yeah, and I was looking into, you mentioned Tommy Robinson last week, and I was looking around and watching Douglas Murray and Jordan Peterson talk about Tommy Robinson. And, he's one of those guys, honestly, Susan, where I don't want to get into Tommy Robinson today, but he's one of those guys that sometimes you want someone to filter him or craft his message.
Oh, yes.
But
like
but at the same time, there are illegals, we'll call them migrants, okay, in England who are committing brutally violent crimes against Britons. And they're not getting time in jail. The people who are getting time in jail are some white guy says, "Why are we allowing this?" And then that guy goes to jail he's not allowed to speak. This is insane. What's happening in the UK?
It's like, how dare these right-wing thugs be criticizing a culture that wants to rape their
And,
women.
and I think it was
They're not okay with
in
it.
I think it was Douglas Murray was saying, they were talking about Robinson, and he was saying, it's like I always say, I don't trust anytime I hear, right wing this or that coming out of Europe. I don't trust it because I know any moderates are considered right wing nuts there. That's what's happening here. But
Yes.
I don't trust whenever I hear right wing nuts. It's like Douglas Murray's like, do you see where are the swastikas? I mean,
Oh
what is
yeah, yeah.
where is this right wing fascist blah blah blah? They call everybody a fascist.
Well, look at I posted it not that long ago, the footage of Biden up on that very Nazi looking stage with the red background talking about how the biggest danger to our country are right-wing white men.
There were between 11 million. We know there were at least 11 million. And I told you last week, MIT and Yale did a study. They're saying it could be double that before Biden took office. Now there's another 10. And just this constant nullification of federal law. Heather McDonald wrote a few years back, she did looked at the numbers. Do you know that in California, I think it was over 90% of all the murders suspects were illegals.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I do
And they don't
remember
want to turn them over to the
um,
feds. We're a sanctuary state. They don't want to cooperate with the feds because these people might get deported. God forbid.
but that's exactly what should happen. And God forbid that we have nice people get deported because everything has gotten so out of hand. We have an opportunity now. You commit a crime, bye-bye. You're out of here. And I must say, though, the little liberal inside me must say that I cringed when Trump had originally said, and they don't send their best. They send their rapists and criminals, blah, 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 blah. It used to be, though, that the people that came over here, they kind of were the best. They were very diligent about it. They appreciated this country and they worked hard. And I worked with a good many of them. And many a time, my artist's butt was saved by an illegal alien who corrected my artwork before it went to print. So, you know, but still, and I love these people, but it's illegal. There's a reason why we have laws. Now I would say that the people that are coming over, a lot of them, they're single men. Why is that?
And
Where are the families that are seeking
by the
asylum?
way, and Trump touched on this yesterday. We'll get back to RFK. This came out this week, Susan. These are government numbers. It's not Trump's numbers. It's not Biden's numbers. The Biden-Harris administration has lost track of up to 300,000 illegal alien kids. Okay, and by the
Not 80,000?
yeah,
Wow.
no, up to 300,000. I could go on and on here. The number was over 291,000 lost children, just lost into God knows what, sex trafficking or God only dead. God only knows what's happening. This is
But they're not in
this is
cages.
so insane. This is so completely insane. And Trump had a stay in Mexico program. Someone has to do something. Either that or you build a moat. Like you build like a 40,
Yeah,
you have to
crocodiles.
build a moat with crocodiles and great white sharks. I mean, what else are you
Mhm.
going to do? So this is utterly
Well,
incomprehensibly insane.
actually, you know what? It could have very easily been remedied. If you just find the businesses that were cutting corners by underpaying migrants, illegal aliens, if you had fined them, people would have self-deported, or you could have taken that money and given them nice tickets to go back home.
I
The whole incentive to be here would have been
no,
gone.
I no,
The
no, no.
problem would have taken
That
care of itself long ago.
well, to a degree, Susan, but at the same, okay, I agree. Number one, I agree. The only thing I would say is if you took this rightful action against these companies, and I 100% agree with you, I still think like I've said before, you could pave the streets of Colombia with gold. When you get your ass into the United States, you're staying. Even if they would stay. There's people who would self-deport, and God knows, I think that none of the welfare or the benefits that are due to citizens should ever go to illegals, and there would be a lot of self-deportation. But I still believe that once you're in here, you ain't going back. I don't care if they pave the streets with gold over there. But anyway,
It might be.
all
It
right.
used to be that immigrants in the founding days of this country, a lot of them didn't like the freedom and they didn't like the responsibility that came with that freedom, and they did leave.
Well, also,
Um,
we also point out,
but
Susan.
not anymore.
We also point out, Susan, that you're talking different waves of immigration.
Yeah.
Again, many of the big waves of immigration, when the evil white people came, you were on your own, honey. And there was no sanctuary. There was no. And by the way, Ellis Island was a processing center. You had to prove that you that you were sponsored here or whatever. But there was no welfare state for you. You sank or you swam. So
Right.
this is totally different now. All right. Anyway, let's get back to RFK. He says he talks about Ukraine. I'm going to throw my support to President Trump, and I think the crowd loves that. So. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, the call. Because of these three things he points out: free speech, the war on Ukraine, and the war on our children, which we'll get into in a minute. I'm not excusing Putin.
Ukraine.
He says, I'm not excusing. Listen to this. I'm not excusing Putin for invading Ukraine. He had other options. But for Russia, he says, the war is Russia's predictable response to the reckless neocon project of extending NATO to encircle Russia, which is a hostile act. The credulous media rarely explain to Americans that we unilaterally walked away from two intermediate nuclear weapons treaties with Russia and then put nuclear-ready missile systems in Romania and Poland. This is a hostile act, and the Biden White House repeatedly spurned Russia's offer to settle this war peacefully. And he goes on, I don't want to read the whole thing, but he says the Ukraine war began in 2014 when U.S. agencies overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine, installed a hand-picked pro-Western government that launched a deadly civil war against ethnic Russians in Ukraine. In 2019, America walked away from a peace treaty, the Minsk Agreement that had been negotiated between Russia and Ukraine by European nations. And then in April 2022, he says, we wanted the war. He goes on and on here. Biden's defense secretary, Lloyd Austin, simultaneously explained that America's purpose in the war was to exhaust the Russian army. Good luck with that. And to degrade its capacity to fight anywhere else in the world. These objectives, of course, have nothing to do with this has nothing to do with what they were telling Americans about protecting Ukraine's sovereignty. Ukraine is a victim in this war, and it's a victim of the West. Since then, both of Russia and both of the West. He goes on and on. We squandered nearly $200 billion already, and these are badly needed dollars in our communities all over this country.
There's no telling what percentage of that money was simply put through the elite's very own laundromat called Ukraine and went right back into their pockets, because that's what they've been doing there ever since they orchestrated the coup in 2014. And anybody that wants to know more about this, I highly recommend. Oliver Stone has two movies, Ukraine on Fire and Revealing Ukraine, that really show you what happened there and how we screwed over this country horribly. So when Putin invaded, we were sold a bill of goods that he was unprovoked. No, you poke the bear enough times, the bear's going to swipe at you. I know. I've been around bears. And NATO has attacked Russia again just recently. I don't know how much Putin's going to put up with.
And he says, our moral authority and our economy are in a shambles, and the war gave rise to the emergence of BRICS, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, which now threatens to replace the dollar as the global reserve currency. Good luck. Good luck, everybody. Good luck. I hope you have stacks of gold like Bob Menendez. Stack them up in your safe. This is a first-class calamity from our country, judging by the belligerent speech last night in Chicago. He's talking about Harris. President Trump says that he will reopen negotiations with President Putin and end the war overnight as soon as he becomes president. This alone would justify my support for his campaign last summer. And I'm just going to add this black hat, white hat media that sells us these fucking slogans about all this. And Putin is wrong. But you have to handle these things, and
he's wearing the lightest shade of gray.
Yeah, you have to handle these things, and it's not being handled. And what's interesting is that when Trump talks about, I'll talk to Kim Jong-un, the left and all these, pardon me, these pussies, they're like, well, he's buddies with Kim Jong-un, or he says, I'm going to talk to Putin, or he's buddies with Putin. These people they're stupid.
He loves dictators.
How the hell? Or he says, I can stop a war in the Middle East with a phone call, which look, I mean, things were calm under his watch. You have to talk to these people. He carries a big stick. And we talked about this last week. Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas want Harris.
Of course they do.
Desperately want Harris, and there's reports.
Yes, it's the Islamist ticket.
And there's a report by Walid Fares on Newsmax, which of course it'll be ignored because it was on Newsmax, which means it's all bullshit if it's from a conservative. But he has sources telling him that Iran wants to assassinate Trump before Election Day.
Well, I'm sure they do. I'm sure every criminal wants Trump gone. I mean, I can't express enough to people, look, you've been lied to. And there are not enough, but there are some celebrities coming out going, I swallowed the Kool-Aid. I was told that Trump was this dictator and that he was a threat to democracy, and all of this has been a lie. Well, there's a reason why they're lying to you. It's because he's going to stop all the crap that they're doing. They don't want you free. They don't give a damn about you. They hate America. And this is a self-destructive plan. So you want communism? You want your kids and your grandkids to be drafted into another pointless war? Then you go right ahead and you vote for camel.
That's right.
Tackle.
Yeah, and here it is, Susan. What's really hard to overcome circles back to our point about, wouldn't 60 Minutes 35 years ago have jammed some of these lies down their throat? Here's the crux of it, Susan. It's like a Big Brother thing, but I don't want to go that far. But this idiot box screen that is in your face, these news reports from CNN, it has an enormous impact. CNN, ABC, CBS, and they all point their fingers at Fox. Meanwhile, like yesterday, I was watching Trump and RFK speak. Okay. At the moment they spoke, I was in the gym watching the both of them speak. I click over on the little screen to CNN and MSNBC, and they're out talking about how wonderful Harris is. Trump and RFK are up there talking, and the only network that's covering this is Fox.
That's right.
So you see all this.
That's absolutely right. And CNN did cover it, but they cut it out. As soon as Kennedy got a little too harsh on the Democrat Party, a little too much truth there, they cut him off. And I said while we were watching, because I had my girlfriends are all texting, and I'm like, how much of this is ever going to see mainstream media?
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's real scary.
It was historic.
Trump?
Absolutely historic moment, and it's not being covered. And that's how you know they're lying to you. They hate you. They want you miserable.
Yeah.
And they want you so miserable that you'll rise up and do what they're doing in England.
And your kids' schools are right there with the media. Your kids' schools are selling you all this crap about they're negative toward Trump, and Trump is this and blah, blah, blah. And,
Mhm.
and it's this long march through the institution. So you have the media, you have academia. It's a very powerful thing to overcome. Okay. RFK says about Trump, he says, Trump telephoned me a few minutes later, blah, blah, blah. I met with him the following day. A few weeks later, I met again with Trump and his family members and close advisors in Florida in a series of long, intense discussions. I was surprised to discover that we are aligned on many key issues in those meetings. Trump suggested that we join forces as a unity party. We talked about Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals. That arrangement would allow us to disagree publicly and privately and fiercely, if need be, on issues over which we differ, while working together on the existential issues upon which we are in concordance.
Ooh, I missed this part because I had to go to work. Ooh, that's
I was a
good.
ferocious critic
Love
of
that.
many of his policies during his first administration, and there are still issues and approaches upon which we continue to have very serious differences. But we are aligned with each other on other key issues like ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate culture of our regulatory agencies, getting the U.S. intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing and censoring and surveilling Americans and interfering with our elections.
Yeah, I mean, when you got the FBI, we had the FBI taking down license plate numbers at PTA meetings when parents were upset that there was pornography in their children's library. Now,
And they call it a book ban. Susan, they call it a book ban. You're worried about the content of in your kid's school library. They're calling it a book ban as though you can't buy any of these books anywhere. They call it a book ban. And the media goes with this. But go ahead. I'm going off. Go ahead.
well, yeah, because it's not a ban. You can still buy them. Um, and you know, if you're going to talk about banning things, what about the leftist approach to Dr. Seuss? Because he had Eskimos dressed in
Oh, no.
traditional
Oh, my
Eskimo garb.
goodness. This is terrible.
I mean, this is crazy. But I'd have to say, my lefty friend Joni, hello Joni, let me know that there were some overreaches. Like there was a book called Entango Makes Three, which was about two male penguins raising a baby on their own. And it's actually a true story. And there are kids in school that have two fathers.
That's true.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that book. It should not have been taken out.
But this
So you do have these examples of where it went too far. I'm just being the devil's advocate.
no, that's fine. Look,
But
no, no.
pornography showing how to give a blowjob in a book at a school library? No, thank you.
Characterizing parents who show up at a school board meeting as deplorables and the greatest threat to your freedom and white supremacists. This is very, very sick. And again, with Obama and the NSA, I never thought that in my lifetime I would see liberals cheering for Big Brother. I any more than right now, I can't believe I'm hearing liberals, who think it's okay that we should beg OPEC for our oil, and it's insane. Who are these liberals? They're not liberals.
Whenever they say something's a threat to democracy, just replace the word democracy with totalitarianism. Because that is what they're threatening, and that is the plan. That's what they want.
All right. Now, Trump is indicating that he wants RFK Jr. to work on public health. And this is very big. Now, there's a lot here, but I'm going to try to go through it quickly. And I know that things like autism are near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to jump through this. Okay. We spend more on healthcare than any country on earth, twice what they pay in Europe, and yet we have the worst health outcomes of any nation in the world. We're about 79th behind Costa Rica and Nicaragua and Mongolia. Nobody has a disease burden like we have. During the COVID epidemic, we had the highest body count of any country in the world. 16% of COVID deaths and only 4.2 of the world's population. And the CDC says that's because we're the sickest people on earth. We have the highest chronic disease rate on earth. And to the average American who died, COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So these were people who had immune system collapse, who had a mitochondrial dysfunction. And no other country has anything like this. I'm going to jump here. It's just, okay, he talks about ADHD, Asperger's, autism. In the year 2000, the autism rate was 1 in 1,500. Now, autism rates in kids are 1 in 36. According to CDC nationally, nobody's talking about this. 1 in every 22 kids in California has autism. You have any thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It concerned me greatly. Unfortunately, I didn't know about this before my son got his first MMR shots, um, and that's measles, mumps, rubella. They put it all three of them in one shot, and it's an awful lot of poison for a little body to handle. Um, I was more afraid of not vaccinating him, but this was after he was diagnosed on the spectrum. And his pediatrician said, "Oh, Susan, oh, you're one of those mothers that thinks it's in the vaccine. Okay, I'll do what you want." And I followed RFK Jr.'s advice, which was to separate his injections. So we waited 30 days between the first measles. 30 days later, he had mumps injection, and then 30 days later, rubella. And this is how we did the boosters. I do think that prevented him from getting any sicker. I also think that there is a genetic component to autism, but I think that there's a trigger in the vaccines and the whole point that Bobby is saying, and Bobby is very clear. He's had all of his vaccines. His kids have had all of their vaccines. Yeah. The number of vaccinations has increased enormously.
And he says space them out, right? He says space them out.
Yes, space them out. And do some research. The research has not really been done, and I do believe that there was one research project that looked into MMR and autism, and they came up saying, "Oh yeah, it does trigger it," and that was quickly buried. He's just saying, let's do the work. Let's prove that they're safe before giving them to all these kids. There's so many autoimmune diseases and so many chronic illnesses now since the vaccine mandate has gone so high. That's so much. Why are we giving babies, newborn babies, we're giving them something for, oh God, hepatitis B? Anyway, it's one that you only get it from sex. Why are newborn babies getting that?
So, Susan, to be clear to the audience, your son is on the spectrum, so to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You've been very open about this. Okay, well, unless there's anything else you want to add, I'm going to continue with what he's saying here. 18%
because it has to be looked into. He's not saying don't vaccinate.
Right. Oh yeah.
He's not an anti-vaxxer.
That's the knee-jerk reaction is he's an anti-vaxxer. Yeah. He's an anti.
Yeah. Oh, he's a nut job.
Yeah, he's all in. Everybody's a nut job. Okay. 18% of American teens now have fatty liver disease. That's like 1 out of every 5. Cancer rates are skyrocketing. 1 in 4 American women is on antidepressant medication. 40% of teens have a mental health diagnosis. 15% of high schoolers are on Adderall. He goes on and on. The culprits, first and worst is the ultra-processed food. About 70% of Americans' children's diet is ultra-processed. He says the cigarette industry purchased all the big food companies in the 70s and 80s, deployed thousands of scientists to figure out new chemicals to make the food more addictive, and these ingredients didn't exist 100 years ago. Humans are not biologically adapted to eat them. He goes on about processed foods becoming hormone disruptors, raising estrogen levels in young children. Um, when my uncle was president, when JFK was president, this country spent $0 on chronic disease. Today, government healthcare spending is almost all for chronic disease, and it's double the military budget. Double the military budget. And it's the fastest budget growing item in the federal budget. And chronic disease costs more to the economy as a whole, costs at least $4 trillion, five times our military budget. It's a 20% drag on everything we do and aspire to, and it affects minorities disproportionately. I'll finish with this. We can change it very, very quickly. America can get healthy again. To do that, we need to do three things. First, we need to root out the corruption in our health agencies. Second, we need to change incentives in our healthcare system. And third, we need to inspire Americans to get healthy again. 80% of NIH grants go to people who have conflicts of interest. 75% of the FDA's funding doesn't come from the taxpayer. It comes from pharma and pharma companies. With President Trump's backing, I'm going to change that. Imagine what will happen. He talks about obesity. When Medicare starts paying for Ozempic, which costs $1,500 a month, and it's being recommended for children as young as 6, all for an obesity condition that is completely preventable and barely existed 100 years ago. Since 74% of Americans are obese, the cost, if all of them took their Ozempic prescription, is $3 trillion a year.
I probably qualify for Ozempic, and I have friends who shall be nameless,
Like me?
who are just losing weight like crazy. No, they're on Ozempic.
They're
They're losing weight, and it's like, dang, I remember when I was young, I did do truck stop speed to lose weight. It's like, health be damned, I want to be thin. Now I'm sure I could qualify for Ozempic. I don't want to have a drug doing something for my body that my body is having a hard time doing on its own.
Let's not even get into it. I qualify for Ozempic. It's been a lifelong struggle. I was thin for about 4 or 5 years back in my 20s. If I do the same thing at the gym and the diet now that I did back in my 20s, nothing happens.
Oh my God.
Nothing changes.
Yes.
Nothing. Do you see this hot ghetto mess right here? I am in the gym 5 days a week, 6 days a week. I watch everything I eat. Nothing happens. Do you understand me? Nothing.
Okay. My sister and I, she was being so good. Nothing happened for her. I went on the diet that usually works for me, and at best, I was losing a half a pound a week. Drugging the children is an important thing, and the very fact that they're talking about giving Ozempic to 6-year-olds. Ozempic it's for type 2 diabetes. It does for your body what your body can't do on its own, but it makes your body unable to do it by itself. So what you're doing with the 6-year-old is you're making them a lifetime user of this medication, which is exactly what they're doing with the trans stuff. The reason why that's being promoted is because once they transition a kid, they are lifetime customers of Big Pharma. This is sick and it's evil.
And a lot of this is irreversible. RFK Jr. says, if I'm given the chance, this is in the Trump administration, to fix the chronic disease crisis and reform our food production, I promise that within 2 years, we will watch chronic disease, the burden lift dramatically. Within 4 years, America will be a healthy country. If President Trump is elected and honors his word, the vast burden of chronic disease, which now demoralizes and bankrupts the country, will disappear. I'm 70 years old. I may have a decade to be effective. I can't imagine that President Harris would allow me or anyone to solve these dire problems. President Trump has told me that he wants this to be his legacy.
Awesome. Another thing that he didn't hit on, because he did mention Big Agra, we have a crisis in the making. Our farmland is being purchased by people that don't like us.
Oh my God.
By China.
Oh my
by
God.
Bill Gates. our farmland. The bird flu is an excuse to cull a lot of chickens. They are planning food shortages. Now, that might take care of some of the obesity problem in this country, but and I say that just because there's never been a totalitarian takeover where they didn't use starvation. So you can kind of expect it. And when you see what's happening to our farmland, and also, farmers know what they're doing and they're being bought out by corporations. I mean, Bill Gates wants to grow everything hydroponically. Our soil is the best way. Mother Nature knows best.
Yeah.
And we're depleting our soil like crazy.
Yeah, he says
we're not alternating crops.
Yeah, RFK says he wants to clean up the soil and revitalize the soil. Well, yeah. I'll tell you, it was an utterly unbelievable takedown of the Democratic Party, and it's by a Kennedy. I guess, you can't, it's just so poetically beautiful that you can't even write this stuff. I mean, it's truth. It's one of those things where truth is stranger than fiction. To have a Kennedy get up and lay out the truth about the Democratic Party. I hope that, like I said, where we began, he suspends his campaign. He endorses Trump. The speech in the middle that's the meat and potatoes right there. All that he said.
Yes, it is. And that's what everybody should hear. And if you're watching mainstream media, you ain't going to hear hardly anything.
I have a tribute to stupidity. Are you ready for it?
Okay, I am.
All right. Here we go with our favorite segment. Everybody loves it. Tribute to stupidity. Yay! My first tribute to stupidity today, I have two of them. My first one is PBS's Judy Woodruff. She has spent the last 50 plus years in journalism, but during the DNC, she wrongfully accused former President Donald Trump of killing a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, and then she she says that he lied about it. And it proves that she is more of a Democratic propagandist than anything else. PBS, screw you. You are useless in the day and age of YouTube. Why we are paying for this, I don't know. The internet, times have changed. The technology has changed. As evidenced by this show and millions of other podcasts, you can put out there whatever you want. Anyway, 77-year-old former anchor Judy Woodruff. She says that Trump took a phone call with Netanyahu and urged the cancellation of peace talks. This is utterly unbelievable. And Netanyahu fired back and said this is a complete lie. And Trump said that he actually encouraged Netanyahu to get the whole thing over with. So Judy Woodruff, you are truly the stupidest person of the week. Would you like to add anything on that front?
I would just add, it's not specifically a tribute to stupidity, but I'd just like to add to that all the pro-Palestine demonstrators in front of the DNC. In the first place, Democrats are probably pro-Palestine, but demanding a ceasefire, or demanding it. Well, Israel agreed to one. You want a ceasefire? Why don't you get your precious Palestinians, not Palestinians, but Hamas, to agree to a ceasefire? They're the ones preventing it. Get a clue.
Absolutely. Tribute to stupidity. Yay! My second tribute to stupidity of the day is the California Teachers Association. I don't know if you've seen these ads, but they have these flowery, wonderful ads. No, I'm not down on teachers. Teachers are lovely. Their union sucks. This California Teachers Association is so full of shit. Here's the thing. We just read that RFK mentioned $200 billion for Ukraine in the last 2 years, okay? The state of California spends over $100 billion every 365 days on its K through 12 schools. And then I have to sit home and I'm watching these California Teachers Association ads, and they always mention budget cuts. And because there's not enough money, our schools do not suffer from not enough money. Just tell me where the hell the money goes. And again, we used to have a media that would investigate where the money goes, just like where did the $2 billion that LA spent on fixing homelessness, but nobody's off the street, nothing's been fixed, and now you want another $2 billion. Nobody asks that. California Teachers Association, you are truly stupid. You are keeping our kids stupid. You are full of it. They're $100 billion plus every 365 days. I could buy the National Hockey League for about $60 billion. The Hilton Hotel Corporation, when I worked for it in 2009, was sold for $36 billion. This is every hotel and every franchised hotel in the world that they own. Hilton, okay? 36 billion. You blow 100 billion plus every 12 months. California Teachers Association, don't talk to me about budget cuts. Find the money. You've wasted a lot of it. That is what I have to say. And thank you so much. And God bless America. And a big screw you to the teachers. Screw you, teachers union. I don't want to hear it.
And it's true. The teachers have to dig into their own pockets to get supplies. I mean,
why?
They work as though they're budgeted on a shoestring. Well, why don't we ask good old hair gel Hitler, Governor Newsom, what's going on with that money?
How many generations of people making like exactly what they made when they were working? How many decades of pensions is wrapped up in this? How many generations of pensions is wrapped up in this $100 billion? And we don't have a media that says, where the hell does this go? You don't need $100 billion to run these schools. This is insane.
Well, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't look into the pensions too much, but no, it's going to the people who keep the red tape flowing. It's not going to the teachers, and it's not going to the students.
Well, wait a minute.
And our kids can't read.
I would suggest, though, Susan, that they make more than you think they make, and their benefits are huge, and their benefits are lifetime. So they do get paid. It's not like they're not getting paid.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's the problem with unions in general, is that they promise the world when they often can't really pay for the world.
And also there is look, you're not working for Chevron, you're working for the taxpayers. So when the union is working for the taxpayers, it's a little different situation than, when you're an auto worker or something. I'm not anti-union. And one thing that no one talks about, President Trump is not anti-union. I don't know if people recognize this. The old stereotype about like the Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, the guy who hates the unions, that's not Trump. Trump made his money in real estate. He had to negotiate. You can read his books. He had to negotiate with some of the toughest unions. He made sure that they got paid. He made sure that he got paid. He made sure that there were jobs created. He's not anti-union, despite all our prejudices about Republicans. He's not anti-union, but no one talks about it.
No, he's just anti-corruption.
Susan,
which should be.
Susan, another tremendous episode. Hats off to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
An amazing man. Amazing.
Love him.
Amazing man. All right, very good. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the crowd loves you. They love Bobby Kennedy. We love Bobby Kennedy. All right, stop it. Now, Susan, a tremendous episode. We covered a lot of ground in this tremendous speech of RFK Jr. Any final thoughts?
Just don't be fooled, people. Don't be fooled. Don't be lazy. You can't afford to be lazy. Every generation says this is the most important election, but If you have any doubt that it's the most important election, take a look at the border. I mean, that's the basic function of a government, is to maintain the sovereignty of the country and to keep enemies out. And they're just like, come on. And believe me, enemies are coming in. And they're enemies against us, and our own government is our enemy. Wake up, people. But don't be broke.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Susan.